Hello and welcome to Research in Education 1, the first of two classes that we'll be working together in order to complete your thesis. I want to talk about the 5 W's of this class, who we are. There are mostly students from the School Library Media program in this class, and we have one student from outside of the School Library Media program. Some of you will have been in classes with each other. Some of you might not, because we have some students who are returning after taking a break and after getting their associates and then coming back to finish their thesis. What are we going to do? Over the course of the next 2 semesters, we are going to write you're going to write, I'm going to help you write a 5-chapter thesis, 3 chapters this fall, data collection, and 2 chapters in the spring. Where are we going to do this? On Blackboard, and we're going to use Google Hangout. I'm going to try that in-person meeting, Google Hangout for most of our meetings, which are mostly going to be individual meetings that we'll do after, generally after significant portions of writing are done and I've had a chance to review it. Then we'll have an in-person meeting. Either I am available to those of you who are close who want to come in for an in-person meeting, but you are not required to come in, and we will do most of our work over Google Hangouts. It gives you maximum flexibility in terms of not having to send traffic to get here and not having to drive a great distance to get here. I'll be sending you information later this week. College of Education has we've got a Google account for education, GAFE, or Google Suites, I think they call it now, Google Suites for Education, and we're going to be, I'm going to be putting you into that, and we're going to use that, the Hangout. Hopefully we can have discussions in there through Google Hangout and use the messaging, and you guys can talk to each other through Google Hangout also. When I've set up a weekly schedule on Blackboard, which will look familiar to many of you. There's not as many lectures as there usually are, and there's no reference journals or journals or extensive discussion groups and stuff like that. A lot of your work is going to be going into the actual paper. There's going to be a series of exercises and assignments that will be turned in through Blackboard that will help you. You'll see the assignments are geared to help you guide you to start writing. Each assignment develops part of your thesis and helps you write part of a chapter. Our weeks will run from Thursday mornings to Wednesday night. So that's, I'm getting on, this is when, I'm still in when. Time management is really important when writing a large paper such as this. That's why I've suggested in the email that I sent out to all of you the book Clockwork Muse. It's a slim book, but it gives you some ideas, and it addresses when you have a big project, how to break it down and how to schedule yourself to write, which is most of you, since you've been working on taking classes and having to work around a full-time schedule of teaching, you're pretty good with time management, but this is something different than a class. So, and then why? Because we love learning, and because action research, which is what this paper it probably will be, most of you will probably choose an action research paper, can help you become better at your jobs. You're going to explore a problem and do research, and hopefully this will provide an answer or some guidance that will help you be better at your jobs. You'll be finished with your master's at the end of this, and you'll be very proud of yourselves when you finish this work. So Blackboards, I mentioned we're going to use Google Hangouts, and I'm going to have you meet in Google Hangouts, and we'll do that. Most of our individual meetings, I'm going to do one early on in the semester so that we can test out the Hangouts and make sure we don't have any issues and talk about some early things. But a lot of them will be after turning in drafts of chapters or parts of chapters, or as necessary. You can schedule a meeting with me when you feel it's necessary. Blackboard is going to look similar to, if you've taken a class with me, it's going to look similar to what I've done in the past. I have materials set out each week, and the early weeks tend to have readings and some lectures, and then these exercises that you can turn in. The link is right here to turn in the exercise in a Word doc. And these are things just to start you thinking about what your topic's going to be. We're going to look at literature reviews and data collection. Those of you who have been in Foundations have done a literature review. And then as we get towards the end of the semester, a lot of it will be giving you time. There'll be some more information, but giving you time for working on the final product, which is due on December 22nd, and it should be chapters 1 to 3, using correct APA style formatting, as it says in your in the first week, Learn to Love APA. I know you guys, some people have a love-hate relationship with it, but it is important to get to know that. We do have a discussion two discussions this first week, a short introduction and a starting points thread that'll get us thinking. What else did I want to say? Okay. Oh, one of the things I want you to read this first week is basic components of the master's thesis, and then you will be introduced to a detailed look at the master's thesis, which again helps guide you in writing it. A lot of this is laid out for you. It's not fill in the blank, but it's very much giving you a template to work on in order to complete your thesis, so that you're not just starting from scratch and not knowing where to go. So, general information, we're doing your master's thesis in 2 courses. So this, the fall is 6290, and then you'll be signing up in the spring for 6300. So as I mentioned, it's 5 chapters. This fall we're going to be doing 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to go over what those are, what's included in those chapters in a minute. And in the spring we're going to do 4 and 5. You will be turning in the final chapters at the end of the semester, and I'm going to be reviewing them over the break, and you may need to do some revisions to chapter 1, 2, and 3 as you begin writing and revising 4 and 5 in order to complete your thesis by the end of April, basically. So chapters 1, 2, 3, which we're going to do in the fall. Chapter 1 is an introduction. It gives an overview, a statement of the problem, purpose of the study, a definition of terms, and we're going to give you lots of information about each of these. Theoretical or conceptual rationale for behind the problem and behind your what theoretical stance you're taking as you examine this problem, and your hypotheses, because you're going to develop hypotheses that you will be examining as you go through your thesis. Chapter 2 is a literature review, and chapter 3 is going to be methods. In chapter 3 you set out the participants, your materials, and your procedures. This is your your plan for moving through your data collection that you're going to be doing in the spring. So chapter 4 and 5, after you finish data collection, which can start as soon as I've okayed your methods chapter. So some people have done data collection in January, but you can also do them in February. We usually like to leave about, it's nice to have about 6 weeks worth of data collection. So that's why once I give you the go-ahead, you can start whenever you want. Then chapter 4 is an analytical overview of what you've collected, and this summarizes your results, gives you the data, and presents everything what you've collected. And chapter 5 finally is a discussion of your results, your conclusions that you make, and educational implications, what your research has shown you in terms of how it can impact education. So what is a research study? It's defined, as you can see here, as a systematic investigation including research development, testing, and evaluation designed to contribute to generalizable knowledge. So as you know from reading about research in many different places. There has to be something systematic about it. You've probably heard things like sampling and random samples. Um, there's different levels of rigor that we will discuss when it comes to social studies testing, the type of action research that you're doing here, and a scientific study, which is probably what you've heard about most, thinking about just all the studies that there are in the news to do with nutrition. And, there's a they talk about how big of a size it was, how long they followed it, and all that leads to an evaluation of the rigor of the study and how much we can trust it. And, a study doesn't stand on its own. It has to be repeated and repeatable. And that's why you're going to be looking in your literature review at other research that has been done around the problem that you choose to study. Research studies an organized activity that's done to determine an answer to a question or a problem. One of the things we're going to be doing at the beginning of the semester is thinking about questions you have within your library or a classroom that you would like to answer, and that you would like to do research on to answer. And it's designed to answer specific questions that will add to a body of knowledge and possibly benefit society. And if you think about it, your research will be adding to what we know about a particular issue, and that's of a general benefit to society. So one of the first things we're going to do is think about finding a problem. Some of you have probably been thinking over the summer about what you might want to study in your thesis. It could be something that you're concerned about in your own experience and work. It's something you can do your own research on, and it should be concerning education and your concentration within so school, library, media for most of you. Concerning your concentration, you want to stick with, we're doing a master's in education, so we do want to stick within the educational realm as it applies to your concentration. We'll be doing exercises and assignments that will help you develop and refine the problem that you want to look at. You may find that there's we can't find a way to measure it, or we need to refine the definition of the problem in order to find a good way to measure it. Remember, you're going to be collecting data, and one of the things we have to think about when we're collecting data is, what does that data say, and how we collect it. How is it going to answer the questions that you have, the problem that you're seeking to solve? You're going to be doing action research generally. If you are really interested in something besides action research, which is implied empirical research. So basically think about it, an SGO is implied empirical research. Doing something like a pretest and a post-test is action research. You see where your students are, you provide an intervention, and then you see where your students have gotten to. Did the intervention work? Can you tell from your, can you try another intervention and see if that works better? So it should be something you can investigate in your own classroom or library. And the purpose of action research and why it's generally done here is to investigate and improve your own practices. Is there something that a particular practice that you want to know more about, or you think there's another way to do it that or you want to see if a way of doing it will work better than what you're doing now? You can do something besides action research. If you're interested in and have a particular idea, we can discuss that and work it into the pieces of the thesis that you have to do. It is probably more work to do something besides action research. My dissertation was historical research, and if you've done that before, you know that it takes a ton of work and a ton of time. So something to keep in mind if you want to go off and do something besides action research. But I am open to that if you want to do something like that. The problem you select needs to be based on previous research done in the field, and so you're going to be doing a lot, examining a lot of research literature in your literature review, which is basically the essence of Chapter 2. Now, if your particular problem has not been exactly done in the before or exactly researched before, what you will find is that elements of it have been. So you can find somebody who's maybe done some work leading up to but hasn't quite gone as far as you, or took it in a different tangent, and that will be part of your research literature and your literature review. This is probably going to be the most time-consuming part of this semester, because you will need to do research in the library, which most of you have an advantage of because you know how to do that. Not everybody does. And then you have to read the research, summarize it, critique it, and develop it into a chapter. So this is kind of the most time-consuming part of what you will be doing this semester. Methods is going to be your third chapter, and you are going to be planning out your methods of data collection. You're going to plan it this semester through writing that chapter, and once that chapter is approved, then you will be going on to collect it, do the study the next semester, collect your data based on what you've written in Chapter 3. So you will outline in Chapter 3 things like which students are going to use, how are you going to choose them, what materials are you going to use, are you doing somebody did a study of different readers advisory methods. So she had two different types of readers advisory methods that she was studying. And, you know, how are you going to record your data? What data are you collecting? What are your questions that you're going to answer? What are you observing? So it's a very mechanical type of chapter where you're saying X, Y, and Z is what I'm going to do. And then you're going to, beginning next semester, once your methods chapter is completed, you're going to actually collect that data. So the data collection will involve gathering information directly from or about some students or parents or teachers. You know, you may be looking at collaboration with teachers, so some of the data you collect may be from teachers and not completely from students. It may be how the teachers felt about collaborating with you, but along with that, you would probably also want to look at what the impact of that collaboration was on the students. So it probably may not be completely with one set of these populations. And later in the semester, we're going to have like a mini data collection assignment that just has you practice doing that data collection, and that, you know, actually doing it, you'll see that there might be issues that are different, things that come up that you didn't realize when you were planning your data collection. And then the data that you collect for your study, the actual data, not your small, you know, you could use assignment 6 as a pilot. Once you get most of your methods down, you could use it as a pilot, and then you could go on and collect it, the data from a larger population and over a larger period of time. So the data will be collected for your study, and that will be Chapter 4. And the assignment 6 is just to kind of give you a flavor of what data collection is going to be like. What does it look like? What kind of record keeping do I want to do? You may find that in your assignment 6, you don't like the way you've collected data, or you feel like you're missing something, or you're you know, however you chose to record wasn't working. So this is a good, the assignment 6 is a good place to kind of fill this out. I'm not going to be grading. I'm mentioning assignments. There's some exercise and some assignments. You won't see a traditional assignment tab that I have, and these are not going to be graded. Basically, your grade's going to be based overall on completing these exercises and assignments, and on turning in Chapter 1, 2, and 3 at the end of the semester. So it's not like you know, each one of these assignments you're going to get A, B, or C on, but you know, basically you'll get an A if you're working on completing all of these assignments and completing Chapter 1, 2, and 3, and I can see that you're completing the work that needs to be done. I forgot to mention at the beginning the finished product will be approximately 85 to 120 pages. It depends on whether you're a verbose writer or a very economic writer. I tend to be a very economic writer and don't like to repeat myself a lot and don't have a lot to say, so everything I write tends to be shorter. Some people just naturally write longer, so there's not a set number of pages you need to hit. There is a outline, what I've given you to read for your first week, which is the overview of the thesis, gives you kind of some idea of what each chapter and section should look like approximately page-wise. Just so you know, we're looking for 20 to 25 research studies, which is why, so they can be research literature, chapters of books, chapters of dissertations even, although that's kind of harder because it tends to be longer. But we'll go over that when we look at what you need to collect for your literature review. But you're looking at not just 5 or 6, but we're looking at a substantial number of pieces of literature that you need to complete, and that's why I say that's one of the more intense sections that you will do in this thesis. So the real data collection, if you plan to teach a new concept or use new materials, you'll do this in the second semester. So once you've gathered this information, we need to present the results in some organized way, and since you'll be collecting probably both qualitative and quantitative data, but probably more quantitative. Don't freak out when I say we're going to be doing statistics, because we're going to be doing very basic statistics, a lot of descriptive statistics, which just says this is what I have, and you're going to be arranging it in tables and graphs. If you happen to thrive on statistics, we can certainly plan your study to collect statistics that will lend themselves to a more sophisticated analysis. But I will definitely be walking you through, we'll be talking just a little bit about statistics in this semester, so that you think about what you're going, in terms of what you're going to be collecting, and then we'll be reviewing how you're going to be presenting it in chapter 4. I mean, basic statistics can be something like, what's the median age, or what's the average of the score on a test that you give the students. So, something can be very basic like that. And then we'll talk about some other slightly more advanced statistics. But don't get scared by the word statistics. Some will be narrative, some numerical. So, and we'll go obviously over that in the spring more. And then the final, once you've completed your results, that will be pulling this all together. What's the implications of the research that you did? What was your original problem or topic, and what did this research lead you to change your mind about? What further research can you seek that might help solve this problem even more? And so this will be your chapter 5, a discussion of those results, the data collection that you've done and detailed in chapter 4. So APA is a must. You'll see that the one book that I've required is the APA 6th edition, and because it's going to be important to do this, we give you some help in terms of constructing the detailed outline of the thesis gives you some help with the APA style, but also you're going to need to do at least 20 to 25, maybe 30 references in APA style, and they're going to be a mishmash of different sources, so you're going to have to learn how to do that. Most of the exercises and assignments are going to be handed in as an attachment on Blackboard. Like I showed you, there's going to be a link for you to hand that in, and then I'm not going to be grading it, but I will be reading it and commenting on it, and that might be, if I need to comment more than I can just do on, through typing comments on it, we may have meetings. About it Sorry, my phone was making funny noises over here. It's telling me I have a meeting coming up. But you know, we might make time to have a quick meeting through Google Hangouts if that works. If not, if Google Hangouts is not working from us, my backup is Skype. But I'm kind of would like to try Google Hangout, and I bet a bunch of you have also used it. So hopefully there'll be a familiarity there. And so your final product at the end of the semester is a full draft of chapters 1, 2, and 3 posted on Blackboard. Your final product at the end will be you will have to print out and get to me a full printout of your final thesis. This can be done either at graduation, if you guys are going to come up for graduation. I don't know if I have the date yet, but hopefully it will be worth the drive for those of you who are farther to come for graduation. Expect, you know, if you know anything about writing, you know that writing is revising. So expect to revise chapters 1, 2, and 3 multiple times, sections of each chapter multiple times, and even after you turn them into me at the end of the semester, I will make comments, and you will probably have to do at least some revision, maybe major, maybe minor, depending on, you know, how the semester has gone for you. And I'm going to be reviewing these chapters over winter break and returning them to you at the beginning of the spring. And the first job you'll have in spring while you're collecting data is to do any final revisions on chapter 1, 2, and 3. So I think that's it for now. Please don't be nervous about this. It is work, but I'm here to guide you through it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please reach out to me if you're getting frustrated, if you're having trouble with something, if I haven't explained something well. I want to make sure that this is not as stressful, is as least stressful as possible for you to go through. So I will see you on the discussion board. We do have 2 discussions this week, an introduction and a starting point. There's questions to get you thinking about what kind of problems that you would like to work on. And please feel free to comment on what other people, that one's going to be an open discussion. Feel free to comment on what other people have been thinking about, writing about. You know, this will be a conversation in the discussion. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.